You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, let's talk about our leans and locks going into Week 7 in the Southeastern Conference. All of these lines are going to be provided by FanDuel Sportsbook. They do a great job and sponsor this show very much. So we are going to use their lines, and their lines are very, very good. A little bit better week than last week. There was a lot of teams on bye weeks. But this week's going to be a little bit different. There are certain teams that will still be there, but I think instead of 5 games, there's 7 this week. And looking at the list of this week, you have Alabama at Missouri. Alabama's a 4.5-point favorite. The game will be at noon on ABC. I like Missouri. You've heard me say for weeks that one of the most underrated teams in the Southeastern Conference are the Missouri Tigers. I think Eli Drinkwitz is doing a fantastic job for the Missouri Tigers. In Alabama, they just beat Georgia. They just beat Vanderbilt. Don't snicker. Vanderbilt's a legit team. But now they have to go handle a road game at Missouri. Missouri moved up to like number 14 in the nation. We'll see how it goes. This could be the stumble point, but if Alabama makes it through this game, they could go on a little bit of a run potentially. So we'll see exactly how it goes. At 12:45 Eastern Time, 11:45 Central on the SEC Network, Ole Miss is a 33.5-point favorite over Washington State. The over-under on that game is at like 57.5 points. This is a game that Ole Miss should win. This is a game that Ole Miss should win fairly easily when you look at the fact that North Texas put 59 in a road game on the Washington State Cougars. When you look at the Washington Huskies put 59 on the Washington State Cougars. Now, they have a good coach. I've talked about it. The South Dakota coach or South Dakota State coach moved over to Washington State. Eventually, they're going to be difficult to deal with. But right now, this is about the perfect time to get them. Remember, Washington State is also the team that is substituting for Wake Forest after Wake Forest chickened out of the game against the Ole Miss Rebels. All right, at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ABC is Texas. Texas is favored by 3.5 points over Oklahoma. That makes no sense. Oklahoma is ranked 5th in the country. I don't care about John Mateer. If you saw what happened last week with Texas getting taken apart on the line of scrimmage, both offensive line and defensive line, I have trouble to think about where they come up with more offense than the Oklahoma Sooners. I think Ben Arbuckle is going to be able to put some stuff together, and John Mateer might be back for this game. It could be something that by kickoff, Oklahoma's favored by like 7 because Mateer is back. So we'll see. I like Oklahoma in this game. I'm definitely leaning Sooners in this game. All right, Arkansas is at Tennessee. Tennessee's favored by 13.5 points. Arkansas obviously is drawing hope from the fact that UCLA beat Penn State with an interim coach. Arkansas took apart the Tennessee Vols last year with Nico Iamaleava, which was a common thread there. But Arkansas has a chance to make Tennessee work just a little bit because the week after this game is the 3rd Saturday in October. And obviously Tennessee might be looking ahead, especially after what Notre Dame did to them a little bit early. Florida is at Texas A&M. Texas A&M is favored by 8.5. Game is at 7 o'clock Eastern Time on ESPN. I mentioned a little bit earlier, I worry that Texas A&M is a little bit of a front runner. I want to see what happens when they get 2 scores behind. I want to see what happens when you have to push it. Does it turn into 4 scores, or are they good enough to kind of close that and do what they do? I am curious, but they're favored by 8.5 over Florida. And the Florida team that played against Texas will give A&M all kinds of trouble. Georgia's favored by 4.5 points against the Auburn Tigers. The game is at 7:30 Eastern Time on ABC. I mentioned on the squad show yesterday, I like Auburn in this game. That stadium has ghosts, ghouls, and goblins. Georgia has not been particularly great. They've been good, don't get me wrong, but Auburn has the talent to negate that a little bit, and a road game in that environment, it could be a little bit nuts, especially with Auburn coming off a bye week. Georgia's favored by 4.5. And we close out with South Carolina in Tiger Stadium. Guarantee it's a night game. Yes, it is against the LSU Tigers. LSU's favored by 9.5 points. The game's at 7:45 p.m. Eastern time on the SEC network. This is a game that LSU offensively could get in trouble because the big weakness for South Carolina is run defense. The big weakness for LSU offense is run offense. So it is kind of going to be weird. So we'll see exactly how that goes. But that's this week's leans and locks. I'm pretty much locking down Auburn beating Georgia, and I'm leaning towards Oklahoma and Red River as well. So we'll see exactly how that goes for everybody this weekend. Anyway, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your go-to source for Ole Miss sports. We pride ourselves on offering the most comprehensive perspectives, which is why we're the front door of the university. Seriously, if you don't believe me, Google Ole Miss podcast and see how much we come up. So don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. It helps the show, and it's absolutely free. Your support means the world to us. And also, in another big moment for Locked On, college football fans, Locked On and Fire TV are presenting College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation alongside two-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson and former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local expert. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch the college football kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. Hotty toddy, everybody. And remember, analytics is just the old English word that means bad football. We'll see you tomorrow.